Servus, welcome to this week's Paddock Pass podcast. We're going to preview the Austrian Grand Prix, and I'm Adam. I'm joined by David and Neil as ever, and a special guest for the first time on a Paddock Pass podcast, making her debut. Hello, Alannah Fellows.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. We're going to be talking about you and your contribution towards MotoGP media coverage shortly. But first of all, I want to know how and where we're getting on, basically, in the summer break. We did a show last week, and Neil, you've been roaming the British Isles. Whereabouts are you now? Because it looks like you're being held captive in somebody's house.
Yeah, in like a grandmother's bedroom, it looks like. Yeah, I'm in Biggar in Scotland, a little village midway between Glasgow and Edinburgh. And I'm in my fourth different house in, I think, 4 days. So I'm not really sure where I am or what day it is, but I've been told that there's a race this week and we're supposed to be back at work. So yeah, here we go.
Well, make the most of the mild temperatures because it's kind of frying in Catalonia at the moment. Dave, you've got a smile on your face for once. That must mean only one thing.
That is correct. Yes, my motorbike is sitting outside my window. I can look at it from here and go all dreamy. And then I'm going to jump on it and ride down to that Austria that they have nowadays.
And then, Alannah, you tell us a bit about you. What do you do? Why are you in MotoGP? And what's your role?
My official role is coordinating producer, but for anybody else, I'm a TV producer, essentially, for TNT or for the British broadcaster, and kind of keep an eye on everything that happens on site. I'm a full-time staff, so I work all year. I've had 3 weekends off, luckily, which has been very nice. But yeah, I travel to all the races and keep an eye on everything that you see on the telly that's not the motorbikes, essentially.
But
I was thinking of your job as making sure that things happen.
Yes.
Because the TV broadcast always looks so incredibly effortless, but that's because there's a team of people like you running around like headless chickens, actually getting shit done.
I mean, I'm very grateful that I work with a very good team. So it's, yes, I help. But there's a lot of us that we're a very, very good, close team that work very well together, which helps make it look effortless. So I'm very pleased you've said that. Thank you.
And for the benefit of people watching this on YouTube, I apologise, Alan, that we made you put on another headset because you spend the entirety of a MotoGP race talking to like 3 different people at once, it seems. But
it feels like work. So it's all right. It's getting me back in the groove, to go to Austria on Wednesday.
You weren't kind of parachuted in from tennis or some other kind of sport, were you? I mean, you were sort of fully fanned up as a motorcycle racing follower.
Yeah, it's always been MotoGP for me. When I went to my first race in 2006 with my dad, and that was what I've always wanted to do. I didn't know that this job that I have was possible because you don't see or hear about them as much, which is why it's been so kind to be invited on here to talk about it. And then that was it. There's never been anything. I've stumbled across TV, which I enjoy, and it's been really good to learn that side of it as well. But yeah, it's always been motorbikes, World Superbikes, MotoGP. This has been the dream, and I've reached it almost too early, I think.
Well, you did you had a phase in Superbike, right? I mean, you went through sort of the Dorna school of
Yes.
Of light knocks, I should say.
I mean, it taught me a lot. So I went to, I did lots of like writing and stuff before, and I emailed, I had for all the British riders, I did like their local newspapers. I did race reports for them when I was about 17, 18, for free, and then I did sports journalism at uni, and then straight from uni I moved to Barcelona and worked in World Superbikes, and I was the English journalist, for want of a better title, and did the press releases and travelled with that, and that was really good at getting my feet on the ground at travelling, because it was a lovely calendar. It still is. There's not too many races, but back then it was Australia and Thailand were my first 2 races that I ever travelled to, which I'm very lucky to do. Phillip Island, and we had the test as well, so it was like a week of just Phillip Island as my first ever proper work trip, which, especially now, then it was unbelievable, but now I'm this age, I can really see how amazing that was. And then straight to Buriram for only, I think, the second one, and I loved it. I still do quite like Buriram. I loved that. And I had 2 seasons there, and then I was also a runner for the job I work for now when I was at uni. And my now boss, Kev, remembered me from being a runner, and he approached me to move back to England and move over. And I did, and now I'm still here because I really like it.
We're going to bounce around a couple of topics, Alan, but we're going to sort of keep probing you about sort of, your work, your career, the differences of working in, Superbike and MotoGP.
Yeah.
It's funny that you mentioned Buriram because, Dave, that's been in the news recently, of course, due to sort of the bizarre situation that's going on over there. But do we have any reasons to suspect it could potentially be a problem for the first round of 2026?
From reading the story, basically, I saw a story in Thai media that there's a dispute over the land ownership. The Thai railway system owns the track, or claims to have owned the track. Claims to own a lot of land inside of Buriram. And there's lots and lots of sort of landowners who, including people with little houses, but also the person who actually owns the Buriram FC and the Chang International Circuit. But there's a land dispute, and the contracts have been the land deeds haven't been signed over properly, so it's still the property of the Thai railway. Thai Railways. The trouble is, there's lots and lots of things happening about it at the moment. I don't think it's going to be a problem for next year, and then next year there's a very good chance we won't go back to Thailand anyway, because Thailand wants F1 and they want to have it in Bangkok, and that would leave Chang sort of without any international racing anyway, because the Thai government also subsidises the MotoGP race. So it's a very difficult situation. I think we go back to Thailand. I don't think there's going to be a problem in 26, but I'm not sure whether we go back in 27.
Talking about like F1, Alan, we'll ask you for a little bit of perspective on, when it comes to coverage and perception of the different series. But can you just give us an outline? How big is your crew? I mean, when it comes to people identify Formula One TV coverage of like Martin Brundle, especially for like an English speaking audience, and quite a substantial production. When it comes to your crew and your output, I mean, what kind of size are we talking about here? Because you guys have a substantial presence on the ground every Grand Prix.
We're lucky, that we still go on site. We went remote it was meant to be 2021 anyway, but COVID forced it a year early. So there's between 15 and 18 of us on site every race, obviously including all of our presentation and commentators. So we have the same commentators, Gavin and Neil, every lead commentators every race. And then Susie, Perry leading the way, and then Natalie normally is our reporter. And then we always have 3 cameramen, 3 sound technicians, and then production management that help us get from A to B, and then the producers, which is me and then Jamie or Kevin that go around. Not forgetting anyone else, that's it, I think, isn't it? Yeah, and then we have about 10, a few more in London as well, always based in Chiswick. And they used to be all of us travel. There used to be 30 or so. I must be getting these numbers wrong, but there used to be quite a lot of us travel. When I first started, there was loads of us. And yeah, now that's split. But it's great to always have that presence on site. I think it's really important that we always have a few of us on the ground, not just not a really tiny crew of just the commentators, so we can all get the story and all understand. Because obviously our main job is just storytelling. So the fact that we're there, and it's not even just us. Sometimes a cameraman will notice something, or one of us will notice something, roaming about the paddock, and because we're always there, we know who these people are, so you can say, oh, this might not have meant anything, but da 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 da, and then that can lead on to finding something else, or it's just very helpful having us all there all the time.
Straight after a race, Alan, let's say that something dramatic has happened. Can you kind of talk us through the process of how you set up interviews, how you get certain figures from the paddock in front of the screens, in front of the guys and the girls that are going to interview them?
Well, it's so we have, straight after the race, we have the 1 hour program on after checkered flag. And then it's just, again, it helps always being the face in the paddock now. They especially like Davide Tardozzi always knows before I'm going to go in the garage. And now I just walk in and they just say instantly, give me 2 minutes. But you just have to walk around and beg, borrow and steal people, because you start early on and you ask the press officers, but especially just after a race, they're so busy. I learned very quickly you can just walk it, as long as you're not like bashing and you very much respect where you're going. But if you hover around somewhere long enough and you dash in somewhere, and then you just say, oh, can you come and talk to Susie Perry, or can you come and talk to Neil Hodgson, or especially with them having such a good, longevity in the paddock and such a good reputation, it really helps, and they're happy to come over. And you just have to say to everyone, right, we're going to go and camp outside of Ducati, because then you can just point and say, look, they're just there, please go over. And a lot of the time it works out, sometimes it doesn't, but we have a very understanding crew that if you can't grab anybody, our pundits can very easily talk about what's just happened. If they're on a break, they can grab somebody to chat to, just to ask an opinion. It's not, I'm always very annoyed at myself if I don't get a guest, but it's not the be all and end all, because we have a crew that can work around it and just discuss it, and they have such an understanding. Again, being there all the time, you always trust them. You always know they're going to be able to say the right thing. And again, the people back in London, the people producing the show that's in their ears, they can always react, or and also we know there's so many races, we can just talk about it next week. Like, we're only here in a few days, so it's very helpful having that.
Are there any, because there's a few places where we have a split paddock, like for example Sachsenring,
and Austria.
Austria as well, to an extent. But Austria is slightly different because it's just the media centre, whereas in Sachsenring you've got sort of basically the pit boxes on one side of the track, and the hospitality on the other side of the track. Well, first of all, does that make things complicated? How do you plan about that, and how do you go about planning about that? And also, we've got Hungary coming up. It's a completely new track. You haven't been there. We haven't been there. What are you going to do there? How do you work there?
Going new places is always really weird for me, because I'm always, actually my friend said in life I'm a few steps ahead, which is too annoying, but I just have to be a few steps ahead all the time with my job and just think ahead. And be a control freak, which quite a lot of us are, but just plan. So like Austria, we normally will just stay in the main paddock. Sachsenring is just the bane of my life, but but again, we have a very good understanding crew of managing expectations and knowing that it's too far. We haven't got long enough on a break to move the whole crew, so we're just going to have to be here, and such is life. If there's somebody super important, say with all the Aprilia stuff, say we wanted Rivola and they said yes, but only on this paddock, then we would just do press from that part of the paddock, and that would be that, and it would be annoying, but it's worth it for that guest that I've booked in. And then Hungary, we just have to wing it. Like, it's always such a weird feeling. You go, you don't know where your office is. Like the media centre, you know where to go, but the TV compound is, it's always just. I remember India, I walked around for like 10 minutes not knowing where we were based. And then, but again, people are understanding, like, you have to, it's harder having to explain it when they're not there. It's always a lot easier for me when the person producing the show is around, just so you can be like, oh, can you just come and see, this is far too far to move. But again, it's trust and it's work. I keep repeating myself, but we have such a nice crew that understand things. And if I say this is too far to move, it's too hot to stand here, they'll understand that. And then it's priorities. And then like say the split paddocks, it's mainly Moto2, Moto3 in Austria, isn't it, in the little one?
Yeah.
Again, you can just kind of, if it's a Moto2, Moto3 guest, you can kind of ask them a lot nicely to just walk over to us. And there's not like they're normally going somewhere else anyway, whereas MotoGP you have to be a little bit more like, okay, we can come here if we need to, but it just depends, and it's priorities and stuff. And Hungary, we're just gonna all be like, well, we're just gonna have to wait and see what happens. There's only so many places you can stand a presentation team in a motorbike racing paddock, and Motegi's the worst one. You can try and find places, but you can't reinvent the wheel. There's only so many. We've got a lovely desk now that we can put in that lights up. I don't know if you've seen it. There's got a little TNT logo on it. That's got also the analysis screen in, so that can make it look a bit nicer if we need to. But there's only so much you can do, and the nearer to the TV compound, the better. But also that's, as long as we can get somewhere with water and shade, and then we're all right normally. And we have Friday.
Don't mention Hungary too much because Neil hasn't had breakfast. But two things. Firstly, you're kind of like the enemy to us because being print. That's all right. Being print, we're always lectured that TV comes first. And I just wondered, Alan, if you go into the paddock, last year is a good example with the the title fight between Jorge Martin and Pecco Bagnaia, if you kind of wave at people, and they see the cameras, is that kind of like a green card or a passport just to get people for whatever you need for content? Because
I wish.
we're always, oh, right, okay.
I mean, it helps, yeah, for sure. But obviously, with the riders, we have the broadcaster set, which is obviously very helpful in a lot of ways. But we're pretty much limited to there. And it depends on how busy they are and a couple of questions. And again, I can only pass on as much information. I'm told 2 questions. If Nat wants to ask an extra question, then I always say crack on, please do. Or she'll have someone in her ear asking to ask another question. Normally it's fine because Nat has a very good relationship with them, or if it's Gav or whatever. But yes, and if somebody doesn't want to talk to you, they don't want to talk to you. Like if Tardotzi's busy or in a meeting, or if they just don't want to talk at that part of the morning and they're too nervous, they'll either be honest and say they're too nervous. It can help, but I don't necessarily, I might be wrong, I don't think necessarily the telly thing helps. I personally think that it helps having Neil with us or Susie with us or whoever they want to talk to, rather than it necessarily being a broadcaster. Yes, I do think they are asked to allow more time. And if I ask for a 10-minute slot on a Thursday, 9 times out of 10 we can get it. I always allow a lot more time. I would never ask a week before or 2 days before. But I probably have more luck than you do, I'd imagine. But but also I can say, please, we're live, we've only got a 5-minute slot, and I know I can be a bit of a please nag, or I'll just follow him. If I really want somebody and I see them, I just will follow them until they'll
just
say
henpeck them.
Yeah, pretty much. And then if they'll give me a reason, then
I think you've kind of implied it already, but it's also worth pointing out to people that don't see the behind the scenes of MotoGP that TV production is not all glamour. I mean, watching you guys trape up and down the sort of the stairs of Hades, or the pathway to death at Sachsenring.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been some social media content that show it, but Gavin and Neil especially are sort of trapped in this very sort of small booth for most of the weekend.
Yeah.
And the TV compound is not sort of a lap of luxury, is it? It's it can be pretty sort of draining work, producing like a live TV signal for most of a GP weekend.
Yeah, it's obviously we're very lucky to do what we do, and there are many good points. But yes, it's porta cabins at each race. I know, like Mugello is particularly bad because you're a bit further down on the straight, and the noise, it's unbelievable when it all starts. And even like we have to get all the cameras tested and synced up to the sound. And in Mugello, you can't, if we miss the point when the bikes start, you can't do it because it's too noisy. And then we're always in some races. It's a joy that the compound's so close and you can get everyone out, because also, like, for me, I'm just always nagging them, you need to leave in 5 minutes, I need you stood in position, I need you here. And I know luckily we get on with each other. Mainly we spend a lot of time together, so we occasionally clash, but when it's closer to the compound, it's so much better. And like Sylvan and Neil and Michael, I can always trust them to be there, but I always have a bit of squeaky bum time of being like, oh my God, I can't see them yet. We've got a couple of minutes, and I know they'll get there. But the closer that we are to the paddock and stuff, it's a lot easier. But again, when you complain about these little things, it's not a real job a lot of the time. But yeah, it's not the glamour. And then there's been a lot of good behind the scenes stuff actually on our social media this year of the reporter, of Gavin and Neil, and Susie with her open talk back as well, which I have similar, but obviously I'm not talking on television, so it's very different to show it. But also it is really cool, like, and we're on from 8:30 or whenever the first session starts to the end of the day, and then you can you just need a bit of time to just decompress all the noises in your ear all day.
Yeah, that would drive me absolutely bonkers. I was, because I did pit lane for Eurosport for like 2 years, and would occasionally get someone saying, "Can you do that? Can you do that?" And otherwise, I'm just listening to the broadcast. But it was that little social media clip that you put on with all of the producers, sort of like seemingly all talking at the same time, and people managing to make sense of it. That was genuinely very, very impressive indeed. I do have a question about that. Because like some of the stuff you do, like Neil is really, really good at this, analysing stuff, like, analysing an incident, at pulling things apart. How much, because it looks, again, as I said, it looks effortless. It looks like it's all sort of, nice and easy and simple.
Yeah.
But I know there's a lot of preparation goes into that. How much of that is just Neil Hodgson knowing about motorbikes and understanding and saying we need to look at this, and how much of it is you saying you or the team or whatever, putting a package together for him to actually present?
It's a good balance. It's very much Neil's knowledge, absolutely. And we always tell him to keep an eye on things and have a look out. There'll be something that'll happen, but obviously if he's been commentating on the race, obviously he's thinking about that. So there'll be something that we'll pull out and we'll say, Neil, could you analyse this? And then he'll have a little look, and then he'll kind of have a little practice in one of the breaks, but do it so seamlessly after a race. It's very impressive. Before the weekend, again, if some like you said earlier about if something's happened in the race, we have to build the clips, we have to send them from London, or if something, obviously if there's a technical gremlin, or if there's something, he's not in the right place, we could always wait till the next week. And we can analyse it on the Saturday morning or the Friday. So then we'll talk to him in the week leading up to the race, and we'll ask him for clips. Or like after, I think it was after Mugello with Pecco breaking into the first corner. After the race, we said to get clips from the year from 24 and 25, and then he can look. And then so we sent them in the week before, and then he looks at them, and then he can then get to the track and have a play with it, and go before. Sorry if I'm giving away all Neil's secrets, but it's also mainly just it is very much that his knowledge, but we just want to make sure that we get exactly the right clip, and exactly the right, and it's not too long, so he's talking too much or whatever. There's always a clip. There's often a thing he'll think exactly of the moment, and then we just go through the footage and we find it for him. So there can be quite a quick turnaround post race if there's been a big moment, because it's very easy to find. But if there's something we can kind of say to him in a break, this happened today, would it be worth looking today? And he says no, but then we park it and then we come back in the week after and ask him if there's any legs in it, because we have ideas and we've all been doing it a lot, some a lot longer than me, but ultimately he's the one that's got to talk about it on the telly. So we've got to make sure that it's all, it's interesting enough. There was the one I know this year with Martin from Qatar with his arm position. And that was really interesting. But again, you need to make sure you've got the correct angles for him to talk about so he can fully show it and, use his tools and this, that, and the other.
Alan, what about, when it comes to TV production, is there any areas that you think, I wish we could do that? Is there any more kind of live aspects, or do you sometimes feel shackled by, the resources you have, even though you have quite a sizable sort of, team there?
Yeah. I mean, there's always stuff that you would love to do more of. And I mean, it's great to get we get them out on trackside now. And it's really fun to get that. Like we've got Gavin Nat out at the top of the stadium section in Brno, which obviously was amazing because we've, been back there. Or in Mugello when you get them out on the service road, just to, on the warm-up lap or whatever. And you just love to be able to get them round more, but that's just being at the track and having the big tracks being so big, like you can't teleport them, here and there. Neil and Gav, we like to, it's great to have them out on the sighting lap for the MotoGP race, but again, they've got to go back to the commentary box. So yeah, there's getting them out and about more would be great. It would also be so good to have riders just pop into our presentation, but again, they're busy, they've got their commitments. We occasionally get them for when there's a big favour or I've got a race, but they're running off to the broadcaster set, and that's the slot with them for Nats. They can't stop with us, but again, I'm sure everyone wants to talk to the riders all the time. That's the whole problem, isn't it? So if we all got to talk to a rider when we wanted to, they'd never be able to do anything. So yeah, and there's definitely stuff I'd love to get them more out and about, and on a Thursday do things that are not just at the track in the hospitalities, but again, they need to be at the track for other things, and that's totally fine. And there's always things that you want to do and improve, but there's only so much you can do with what you've got. And hopefully things are changing and we're getting more. Last year we never got them out and about as much as we did. But there's always time. There's always different things and different technologies and different things happening to try and improve it.
Going back to the camera, you say you got three camera operators plus 3 audio engineers, sort of thing. Yeah. You 3 sound people. So that means you can run around and get your own sort of footage.
Yes.
But mostly you're dependent on Dorna for providing the race footage. Yeah, you don't get a little personalized feed of I want to see this camera or that camera. It's for the action. You are basically reliant on Dorney. Yeah.
Yeah, we use the world feed. So the minute for the MotoGP race, well, for Fridays it's all world feed, and then we'll take our roving camera out into pit lane, or if there's anything big happen, we can just send it out and we can, put it over the top of the world feed. And then MotoGP race, we're our cameras until the little video starts, the world feed. Sting, I believe, is the official term. And then Susie does. We have a little minute and a half at the front of the grid. And then it goes straight to that video, which in Austin was wild because that's when you see the shot of Susie saying this is your race, and then Mark just runs, and then it cuts to the world feed, and then no one knew what was happening. It was amazing. But yeah, so we're world feed for the race. That's whenever I explain to people my job, I always say we're everything other than on the bikes on track, because that's very much.
It's certainly. I mean, do you have any input? I mean, do you give feedback to Dawn? Oh, it would be great if we could have more of this or less of this, or are you going to do this? Because, like for me, like I love the drone footage. I wish we had much more drone footage because it's so good. You know, you're so close.
We can feedback for sure. There's you can send emails and let people know what positive and negative. I know we do. And we always ask the commentators to let us know if there's anything to let people know. I mean, obviously, again, with all traveling, people know each other, so Gav could approach someone or Indorna that you just walking past that you see. But yeah, we can feed stuff back, and yeah, the drone is amazing. We try and get the drone to help us especially with our track guides with Neil last year. And yeah, Nacho that does the drone he's so good. It's very cool to have that as well, the addition. I'd love more drone, but again,
I was in the Belgian motocross Grand Prix the weekend before last, and I did an interview with the drone operator there. I mean, he's a guy who sort of races these things, and it's fascinating, the technology.
Yeah.
But he was saying that the biggest limitation is that these fast-paced ones that sort of zoom around after the riders, the batch only lasts 4 minutes. And you think, that's nothing. Yeah, it's he says when it's like fully tapped out, it's like a 4-minute thing. So then they have to bring it back to base, change the battery, and get it out again. And then being at the motocross track, which is far more flexible, of course, when it comes to rules and regulations, then you just feel this thing zooming over the top of your head when you're standing trackside. But then the images on the TV are quite impressive.
Yeah. Also, I mean, I think especially at motocross, because the speeds are slower, it's much easier for the drone to actually keep up. Because like I don't think drones can do 360 Ks down the Mugello's front straight.
Well, they have the Red Bull one.
Can you imagine?
Dorna did the test. Dorna did the test with the 300K Red Bull one. I think it was at Le Mans.
They did the rookies at Jerez, didn't they?
I was at Le Mans, I think.
Oh, was it? Maybe Jerez was last year. They did Jerez last year, I think. That was really cool.
Oh, I'm so looking forward to this.
I know.
Alan, you said you wanted more drone. I suggest you maybe listen more to this podcast. Plenty of that on here.
I mean, I've been droning on, so I fit in well.
What a few people, or some people, I imagine, that listen to this podcast are probably interested in getting into the industry in some way. And you've obviously had quite a unique path to get to the position you're in currently.
Yes.
Just wondering, is there any kind of advice that you would offer up some potential, younger people that are maybe interested in getting into the work of MotoGP in your kind of line?
That is a very good question. It sounds boring, but it's
he
how
has
I met
his uses, Alan.
It's the one question. It sounds boring, but it's how I met all of you. You've just got to talk to people and meet people and introduce yourself, and volunteer and show willing. I've actually had, which is very strange to me because I don't feel old enough for any of this. A couple of people have messaged me on Instagram because, on a Friday I'll get a very kind shout out from one of the commentators that I've just passed them a piece of paper, or that we've given them some information or something, or, and you get people asking, and that kind of stuff, to just go and shadow. And the early stuff you do, you make cups of tea, you start at the bottom and you're learning, you're never going to walk in and be able to do it straight away. But just get yourself to a race or introduce yourself to somebody that works in the industry. Go and sit in a TV gallery if it's a TV gallery in shadow. And then, work out what it is your passion is. Because the minute that you see that there's a passion for something, I imagine people seeing how keen I was too keen, some might say. But it clearly stuck with people because it got me this far. And then obviously then you've got to do the job and, actually prove yourself. But yeah, it's just have experience that seems boring, you know, it's shadowing people seems dull, but you learn a lot, and then you see what you like and what you don't like, and you've just got to introduce yourself to people. I remember some of my friends in the paddock now, I don't remember how I met them, but I know I was the one that went up to them and started chatting, and then before you know it, you see them at another race, and then all of a sudden it's that person that I've seen twice. How are you? And now you're here.
Alan, I've got 2 questions. One of them is very
Okay.
difficult, but the first one is, can you remember like an episode of TV Gold where you thought, oh, this is going to be great, and maybe another occasion where you thought, oh, this is an absolute nightmare, and somebody please pull the plug?
What that I've been working on?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a very good question. I don't know, actually. I know, well, when Rossi retired, because it was me and Charlie Hiscott. I was always kind of I was the producer with the reporter at that time, and I was his backup essentially with like live guests and stuff. And it was basically like, can we try and get Valentino? And it was one of them where it got to the point when I was thinking, my job was just to essentially just follow him, which was, as a little fan when I was really little, was amazing, because I was in the garage, and I remember I got trapped in the garage. It was me and Alex, one of our cameramen, and the doors closed, and he was he was crowd surfing, and Valentino landed next to me, and he was hugging everyone, and he looked at me like, I don't know who you are. And I was like, I'm not going to hug you because I don't know you. It was just, but then I just thought, but my job was, I need to get him on the television. But then in my head, I was like, oh my God, when I was 15, if I could see this, I would just die. And in the end, it was just too difficult to get. And it was just such a shame that, you know, we waited to try and get him. And obviously you want to, that's what you want to get, even just align with him. And it wasn't a disaster because, again, they could talk through. And I think, did we have Casey Stoner with us that race? I think that was, so obviously you've got, anyway, you've got
I think he was there. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah,
so
wasn't it?
There's plenty for them all to talk about. Yeah. But that was one when it was just a shame because, you know, there was one shot where, I mean, you know, they were the ones talking on the television. This isn't about me in any way, but you just saw me hiding behind a bin because I was trying to find him.
We like bins on this podcast.
I was so determined to try and grab him. Not that, like, I would have just basically, just for want of a better word, just shoved him into it. And if seeing Casey, you know, it would have been great. And that was a shame. So that would have been the TV gold, how we got him. And that was just, I'll always be annoyed about that. So that's probably the bad one. And then I don't know, the good one. That's a good. I'm too negative. I'm never that positive. We did, when we got this year, we got Alex and Marc Marquez together at Silverstone. And that was really cool because when we got them sat down and we got them to film some things for like our opener that we did, where they looked down the camera and said some lines. It was a good segment, and it was very stressful getting it sorted. But once we got them sat in, I was like, okay, this will be great. This is gonna go well. So probably that.
So there's been no kind of horror moments where you think, oh goodness, you know, just please have a power cut right now.
Well, we're so professional, Neil, that, you know, Adam, that we can just make it work. You know, but nothing major, I don't think.
Well, my tough question.
I was going to say, since Silverstone 2018, when it just rained all day.
I wasn't there, luckily. I was in Barcelona watching it, thinking, and I would just turn on and be like, "Oh, it's still raining." I was sat on my sunny balcony, super bikes for life, living life, thinking this is great.
My tough question then is, you've got Natalie and Susie, obviously, and then you have, you know, Gavin Emmett and Neil Hodgson, and sometimes Steve Day even popping in. I want to know, who's the biggest prima donna out of the whole talent crew?
Oh, come on. None of them are. No, they're all lovely. They are genuinely, I'm very lucky to work with them. They're all very nice. We get on very well.
We know it's Neil Hodgson. You can say it. It's all right.
Michael Lavey. No, they're all lovely. We all are lucky that we got on so well. We've worked together for so long now. It's taken a while for us all to get, you know, we get on so well. No, they're all what you see on television. We're all friends. We all get on. I'm so sorry, I can't give you a headline.
But it is true that they are actually they're all just incredibly knowledgeable, but also just really nice people as well. Yeah, because there are some right dickheads in TV, but none of them work for TNT. I mean, There are genuinely some TV presenters who are under the impression that the sun revolves around them. But that is not in any way the case with with Neil and Susie
No,
and Emma. Really.
I mean, we love they all love the sport, and that shines through.
Yeah,
And they want
exactly.
They want to tell the stories properly. You know, there'll be a time when Gav will see something from the commentary box and key it through, and he won't. You know, he'll because he's not commentating, he'll just want us to get it out there. So, you know, we just want to show everyone the story at home. You know, and that's the thing. If there's ever a time when we're all a bit grumpy or tired or whatever, but we all just really care. We all just love the sport, and we all just want the show to be the best it can. So, you know, and then it just helps that we work together so well. You know, I know that Neil wants they don't like super cold water, so I give them, you know, the nice room temperature water, but that's fine.
There we go. There's the secrets.
Yeah. No, they all know because I always have my little bibs and I have my water and I have all the different, you know, temperatures for them all. But that's just because that's a sign that I spend far too much time with them, that I know what kind, you know, what food and what water they want. But it's with it, we spend so much time together. You want to keep everyone happy and, you know, in a nice mood, and it's just nice to
Gav and Neil like have their own rug in the commentary box, you know, have their shoes and socks off, and
of course we steam all their clothes before they go in, and you know the room smells of a certain smell. It's got to be a certain temperature. They're all very lovely. I'm very, very lucky to work with a very nice team.
Yeah, I think the idea for TV production was a couple of years ago when they had that guy on Dutch Eurosport going up and down the pit lane. I mean, the ego was barely contained under the headwear from what I could understand. But never mind. Dave, we miss you on the Dutch. The Dutch fans, I need you back, I think.
They actually have someone who's perfectly good at their job, and also much better. And also, you know, they've got Wilco Seelenberg right now, so they can't really complain.
He's great.
He's fantastic.
When we've had him on ours, he's been really good.
Yeah, no, I mean he's genuinely incredibly knowledgeable and willing to talk and all sorts of things. So yeah, no, it's I have to admit it's definitely an upgrade.
Okay, right, Oostenrijk. Is that right? Österreich. God, I mean,
it's amazing. Genuinely, the fact that you speak 3 languages fluently. But
we're getting there. Every year is a little bit closer. Let's talk about Red Bull Ring. Goodness, it's coming up to 15 years, I think, since the circuit was renovated. Of course, lots of history. Personally, I think it's a fantastic track. One of the hardest on the calendar for braking, according to those boffins at Brembo. And of course, it's very much a Ducati stronghold, right, Neil?
It is indeed. Yeah, Ducati have won every MotoGP race we've had since we went back there in 2016, with the exception of one, when Brad Binder obviously stayed out on slick tires in kind of worsening conditions. Slightly
and Miguel.
And Miguel, of course. Yes, of course, that was another one. So, yeah, bar 2. But it is very much a Ducati stronghold. They finished first, second, third, and fourth in last year's race. And yeah, it is just typically always played into their strengths.
It's also, I do wonder if your heart beats a little quicker because, it was also a pretty happy hunting ground for Andrea Dovizioso. 3 wins at the Red Bull Ring. And we go to another track, Dave, where Pecco Bagnaia has put 3 in a row. It's similar to Mugello. Is Pecco going to have another mental bashing this weekend, potentially?
Well, I mean, I think this is one of the few tracks that Marc Marquez hasn't won at, and he's come very, very close. Obviously, a few times being beaten by Dovi. It's a strong Ducati track. It's certainly his best chance of actually winning there. But it's also a track where Pecco Bagnaia gets his 355 brakes back. The ones that and it's not really, because we were talking about it at Brno, and he was sort of like saying, like, it's not, they'd changed the brake master cylinder to give him a slightly different feel to his brakes. So he just wants a bit more control in his fingers when he's braking. And that's what he's been looking for. That was what he was getting from these 355, from these big discs. And like, everyone's going to be using the big discs. So that should give him at least a bit more confidence, because it's very much, like the confidence in braking, confidence on corner entry, being able to hold the brakes and control the amount that the front wheel is locking, deep into the corner. So it's going to be interesting to see whether that makes a difference. I think it'll certainly give him a confidence boost to be able to come into Austria knowing that he's got the big discs that everything is in place for him to sort of succeed. But then, what happens when the rubber meets the road? That's the big question. It's going to be, and also, he'll have had a break. He'll have had a time to sort of, decompress, unwind, and start thinking about ways to fix his situation, ways to improve his lot.
Alan, Red Bull Ring, the section 2A, 2B, in my opinion, it's absolutely butchered. A fantastic track. Are you like a non-fan like guy, or
it is a shame? I agree, but obviously the crash that caused it was also pretty bad. That that needed to happen. Yeah, but it is a shame. It is such a good track, and that just is. I'm not the biggest fan of that part, but safety and all,
I don't like the track at all. I think it's terrible, and
Why?
The sooner it's ditched, the better. It's dangerous.
Dave, you can't say that.
The layout is shit. It does produce great. It produces great racing. Absolutely.
For that reason alone, it has to stay.
Did you watch last year's race, Dave? I'm still in shock and trauma after the 2024 Red Bull Ring Grand Prix when we had two of the worst MotoGP races I can remember.
Yeah, well, I mean, yes, or in the past it produced great racing, but it's just exactly the last corner. It's just not a very interesting layout. In fact, you're absolutely right. 2A 2B really did butcher it. But it sort of made it. It certainly made a big difference in terms of safety. But I am not a fan in any way, shape, or form.
I think
a fantastic setting.
I think at the minute though, we go through a few tracks where it seems a bit boring at the minute, but for obvious reasons. This it's easy to say about last year that it was dull or whatever, but we're in that time at the minute where we are struggling slightly for fully exciting racing. And the scenery, I think some of the races where you go, I know obviously we're there, so it's different, but it helps being somewhere as amazing as that. It kind of helps slightly, I think.
Neil, with the fact that we've got the Alpine Stars Paddock Pass Podcast Fantasy League sort of roaring back into action, as well as the sort of second phase of the season, who's kind of like more in your favour as the second potential Ducati challenger? I mean, would it be Alex? Would it be, one of the VR46 boys, considering Franco Morbidelli is probably, back to sort of full health and form? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, there was quite a few of them that went into the summer break in, low-key form after, promising starts to the year, of promising stages in the first part of the season. Digia had a disaster in Brno, Alex Marquez too. Franco obviously put himself out of 2 races after his crash at Sachsenring. So, yeah, they'll all be returning with something of a point to prove. And, of course, Bagnaia, for the reasons Dave previously mentioned. We haven't seen Alex Marquez do amazingly well at this track before, but then there's been plenty of those places in 2025 where he's come in and just been super strong, even if his previous record at that particular track wasn't amazing. And yeah, I think it's going to be quite interesting to see whether Alex can maintain that sort of or kind of regain some of that momentum that he lost in the last 2 races, really, since he had that crash at Assen. And he'll obviously have had some time to heal up as well. So, yeah, I'm quite intrigued to see what Alex can do.
Alan, if there's a rider you could pick from the pack who hasn't really popped up on the podium yet this season, just in terms of TV value, who would you pick?
Pedro Acosta's a pretty good...
Really? Hasn't he been as surly in TV as he's been, to the rest of the media so far this year?
He's good. He gives good lines though, doesn't he? He's a good vibe. He can be. Yeah, Pedro. Who else do we like? Pedro's a good one. Or Bez is. I know Bez has been winning though, so that doesn't really help your question, does it? Fabio Quartararo. We like Fabio Quartararo for sure.
How can Bez be any good on TV? Well, maybe
it's just a nice vibe.
And because you're not talking to him, Adam, that's
also,
why
I'd say
I guess he can toss off lines to a camera and it's fine. But when he's trying to give us some insight,
I've been trying to keep so polite, no words. You said toss off. Fabio Quartararo, I think that's my answer. He's lovely to get on television, so that would be nice to see him back up there. But Pedro Acosta. I had a great meeting. We went to Murcia last year with Gav to do a documentary on him, and that was very interesting.
Okay, I have to. Can people see that internationally, or is that kind of locked into sort of geo contained?
It depends.
So
It depends. Some of the stuff gets is geo locked, and some of it isn't. So some of the stuff you post on social media actually gets sort of I can watch because I haven't got a UK VPN, and there's others which it just comes up saying not available in your region. So
I should know. I can have a look and let you know.
Unfortunately, the one of the riders with a question mark still over his head is Neil's other man crush. I mean, Maverick Vinales. We don't know if he's recovered sufficiently from his shoulder surgery to be able to go to Austria.
I think
Perhaps
I saw.
he will be there
I think
for
I
a
saw
late
in,
fitness test.
Yeah, I think I saw a news thing saying that he would be there, but there's also a difference between being there and actually riding.
Also, let's not forget that when we've been to Austria, there's been some really, really bizarre weather. We've had like these horrendous sort of summer storms that have the first editions ripped off like advertising hoardings and sent them spiraling across the asphalt. It looks like it's going to be pretty hot and sunny though, which is good news for your motorbiking, Dave.
Well, that was what I thought when I went there last year, and then it was very hot and sunny, and then I got into the mountains, and it was like about 4:30 in the afternoon, and there was a sort of those lovely great big cumulonimbus clouds, the big fluffy ones, which look lovely but are a harbinger of terror, and there was sort of like a few drops. I thought, nah, it's all right, it's not worth putting me waterproofs on, and
Rookie
then.
error.
Absolutely. Then genuinely, that is the worst storm I have ever been in. It was there was like a hailstorm. I had to stop. I was sheltering under trees. There was sort of about 2 inches of hail sort of building up around me. There was another time with my poor wife on the back in Austria. I think the first one, 2016, where we were trying to ride we're riding back up to Vienna, and the heavens just opened, and literally, I could see maybe sort of 20 meters, 30 meters ahead, and that was it. So yeah, it's mountain weather. It is proper mountain weather where what happens is it's lovely and warm all day, and all of that moisture in the ground evaporates, and then it builds up, and then it all comes out again in the afternoon, in the late afternoon and evening. So
last year on the Saturday, I got trapped in the media centre with that big storm because you were so high up.
You could see it coming, and it was absolutely bloody terrifying.
Yeah, but Austria is one of the hottest, I think, because it's like a bowl. So in the day, unbelievably hot when the forecast is nice and warm. So
Styrian mountains, causing their effect. Dave, on the subject of your motorcycle due diligence on this podcast, thank you to rental.com for backing us. If you have a street bike, road bike, and you need some quality accessories, then head to rental.com. Use the Fit My Bike tool to be able to find what you need for exactly what you have in the garage. So thanks to rental.com.
I was talking to someone the other day about their motorbike because they were having problems with their hands riding, and I sort of suggested go to rental, have a look at the bars that they've got, and see if you can swap them out for something.
Excellent placement there. Dave, you also gave your motorcycle to Peter Bomb for a test ride, apparently.
I did.
Did you loosen one of the axles, or
No, I didn't. No, he's he wanted, because he's got a 2009 GS, and he wanted to feel what the difference was with a more modern one. He went off. We had a lovely chat. He was telling me all about Ducatis because he used to work for the Ducati importer a long time ago, and he went off, had a ride, and my bike came back with a full tank of petrol, which on a bike with a 30-litre tank is actually doing very well. Thank you very much.
From a Dutchman as well. That's incredibly generous.
Exactly.
Alan, this weekend at the Austrian Grand Prix, you're going to get a chance you're going to be even busier, right? Because with this special celebratory lap on Sunday, there's going to be some MotoGP legends hovering around, the likes of Mick Doohan, Casey Stoner, a couple of other riders. I'm not too sure who's going to be there. I mean, does that also mean in your diary you're going to have to sort of run around after a few more PR people and try to get some airtime?
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, in Assen was the best because they had the one after the race, and we basically just camped in pit lane. And I mean, again, Susie or whoever went up and grabbed people, so it does make it busier. But they're the kind of things when it's fun, because it's like it's nice to go and grab people again that you try for the press officers, but if they're very busy or whatever, just go up and grab them, and they can see it. So it does make it busier, and we have to make sure in the running order that we allow for it, because obviously everything's very well structured. But yeah, I mean, it's cool to have all the people there, and it's cool to have these events. It's just as long as we know who's there, so we can know who's worth grabbing. But those kind of things make it make it interesting, make it fun, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've said before on the podcast, MotoGP needs to celebrate its heritage more. And I think things like this should happen more often. I mean, whether that means Dorna kind of loosening the purse strings and flying these ambassadors and these ex-champions in to do this sort of stuff. Because the likes of Casey Stoner's not just going to ride, I think, his old Honda on Sunday for a parade lap before the MotoGP race, but he's going to be there for a couple of days, you'd imagine, giving material, giving media coverage, doing stuff that potentially you could reach the different phases of the MotoGP audience. I think that stuff has to be encouraged more. But good news, it's going to happen anyway. I think, always adds an extra dimension to a Grand Prix event. We're coming to the section of the podcast now where we're going to remind everyone that we do paddock note shows. So every day from the Grand Prix, we'll be giving a summary, a roundup of what we've seen and heard. You have to be a Patreon subscriber to listen to those. The first one will be free on Thursday, but then Friday and Saturday, we'll be offering that golden content directly from the circuit, and we've got the full crew on the ground with Neil, David and I in Austria this weekend. Let's pretty much finish things off here on this podcast with some of our predictions. Neil, who are you fancying for this weekend?
Unsurprisingly, he goes by the name of Marc Marquez, and
long shot.
Yeah, difficult one.
Sticking my neck on the line. But the fact that he was able to run with year-old bikes in last year's race, I think bodes quite ominously for the likes of Pecco Bagnaia this weekend. So I'm going with Marc. I think Alex is going to return with some gusto after his break and his ability to heal up. So I'm going for Marc and Alex. And then I think Marco Bezzecchi might be on the podium as well.
I'm going to tip another Quartararo qualifying performance. I think we're going to see the Yamaha up there again. As usual, I'd kind of pretty much write him off for the race. But I'd like to see a KTM up. I mean, I think Alan's sort of tip for getting Pedro on the camera was also pretty shrewd also for a race result, especially considering what happened in the Czech Republic. I guess, David, depends on the grip level that we find on the Styrian asphalt. But I would hope that a KTM makes it in just to sort of shake things up a bit. It would be a bit dismal if we get like a 4 Ducatis in the top 5, which is, let's face it, likely to happen. Alan, for you, who would you sort of pin in second place behind Marc?
I like how you've gone straight in with Marc going to win. I think it's hard to look past Alex with him recovering in the summer. I'd like to say Pecco, but I think Alex probably. And then, like you say, Pedro. I agree with you. I know you didn't ask me this, but Quartararo from pole. And then, it's not a shame because it's exciting, but it's hard to look past that.
David?
Yes, I mean, obviously Marc is going to win because that's what he does. Alex, you got to think he's going to be coming back strong. I do think that KTM is a good shout because I think that KTM, they seem to have made a step in the last maybe 3 or 4 races when they've finally figured out what they're doing with the bike. And I do think that, Maverick has had a big role in actually sort of solidifying the ideas. I think it is unfortunate for Brad Binder because, the bike is moving in a direction which is completely counter to everything that Brad can do. I think it's for a decent chance that Pedro Acosta will be there or thereabouts. But I am fascinated what happens with Pecco Bagnaia. I'm going to be watching Pecco Bagnaia very, very closely this weekend because I think this is going to tell us a lot about where he is, what's the what's happening, how he is, and what it's going to be like for the rest of the season.
I think we mentioned on the last podcast as well that KTM did a test at the Circuit de Catalunya, Barcelona, Catalunya, last week or the week before last with Dani Pedrosa and Paul Espargaro. So also keep an eye on the Red Bull KTM garage. There could be something new potentially on those motorcycles. Just out of interest, Dave, is the homologation for, the second aero packages, there's nothing else to come, right? Or is there still one particular team or factory that could sort of whisk something new out of the box?
I am not sure. I haven't tested. I think that Yamaha because Yamaha and Honda House concessions teams get 2 aero updates. I think they both have a second update to come, but that will probably come in the second half of the season after the Misano test, where the Will of the Test did it. Apart from that, I think everyone else has pretty much had their aero update. I'm not sure about Aprilia, to be honest, but no, I think Aprilia have also
had new things in Assen, didn't they?
Yes, they did. Yeah, you're right. They had they had new aero there. So yeah, the question is, will Pecco start using the new aero as well? Because he's been stuck with the older, or he has stuck to the old aero, and whether he's going to actually make the decision, make the jump, start using the new aero and see if it works best.
Alan, during the summer break, Sylvain Guintoli also works, of course, with your crew, and it was desperately sad to see the news about him and his family. But there is an aftermath to that, right?
Yes, obviously, very sad to see about wonderful Luca Guintoli. But Sylvain, I don't know if you saw at Silverstone where they did the raffle for the helmet with Jake Dixon. They've kept all the links open, so if anybody wants to donate in Luca's memory, the links are on Sylvain's Instagram bio for the 2 charities that have supported Sylvain's family and will continue to support families that are dealing with children with cancer, but just to send all the love as well to the Guintolis.
Yeah, it's genuinely tragic news, and I mean, we can only send all of us send our best wishes to Sylvain and his family, and also to anyone suffering through that, because it's one of the most difficult when seeing your own child pass away like that.
Yes.
Yeah, well said, Dave. Alan, that's it. Thanks ever so much for making your podcast debut. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. Please come on again.
Oh, that's very kind. I'm glad I didn't bore you. Thank you for having me.
No, there was a bit of red tape to cut through to get you. And, that gives you even more VIP status.
Well, thank you very much. As long as Neil still talks to me for outing that he likes a certain temperature of water, then I think we'll be okay.
17.5 degrees. This is 17.4.
Yeah, it's very nice. Thank you.
Yeah, and we've lost our Neil. He must be having connection issues in his granny flat, but never mind. Yeah, we'll be seeing him this weekend.
Hopefully we'll make it to Austria,
yeah. Okay, guys, thanks for listening. We'll be back with our first Paddock Note show on Thursday.